Most people download Anki, get excited for a few days, and then quit. I get it. I did it too. I even have a video of it. But here's what I wish I knew. A tiny tweak in how you use it flips it from another chore into the most powerful memory system in language learning. I'm Nick. I speak 4 languages, and I'm currently working on my 5th. I've already made a video saying that Anki might be the best language learning app, but also admitting I don't like using it myself. The truth is, I used it so wrong that I ended up burned out. And that's what happens to most people. I made the mistake of adding every single new word I was learning. It felt productive, but it was quickly turning into a chore. This time, I'm approaching it differently. I've reduced the number of new words I learn each day, and I'm making sure it actually feels sustainable. Right now, I'm learning just 4 new words, and that's my limit. It's manageable, and it actually sticks. I will probably increase that a bit more, but due to Ukrainian having a different alphabet, it feels like I need to slow it down a bit more. There are also excellent pre-made decks available online. For example, I found a Ukrainian deck posted on Reddit. If it's that easy to find for a small language like Ukrainian, it's probably even easier for bigger ones. Some people love creating their own decks, and that's fine, but if making cards becomes another burden, it's a fast track to burnout. Moderation matters. So what actually is Anki? At its core, it's just a flashcard program, but it's built on a principle called spaced repetition, showing you a word or phrase right before you normally forget it. The more times you remember it, the longer the gap until you see it again. That way, you're not wasting time reviewing words you already know, and you're not forgetting the ones you barely know. I've never wanted to make physical flashcards, but I've used Duolingo's word revision challenge plenty. While it's not as powerful as Anki, it can feel more enjoyable. But here's where people go wrong with Anki. The first mistake is adding way too many cards. Within a week, you're buried under hundreds of reviews. The second mistake is bad card design. People put full sentences on one card or add multiple answers, and Anki works best when cards are simple, which means one question and therefore one answer. My advice isn't to steer clear of pre-made decks. In fact, they remove one of the biggest barriers to entry, but if you're making your own cards, keep them simple. Add the necessary depth, but don't overcomplicate. I like my decks minimal so that anyone can use them. If you want more, like pictures or detailed notes, that's fine, but just know it comes with an uphill battle when you're adding more and more flashcards. The third mistake is inconsistency. Some days, 50 cards, some days, none. The review pile explodes and catching up feels impossible. If you're using a pre-made deck, make sure you like how the cards are designed. Just because it works for someone else, it doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you. So what's the right way to use Anki? First, I've already mentioned, keep your cards simple. For beginners, a single word or short phrase is enough. On the front, to eat, on the back, manger, in French, of course. Nothing fancy. As you progress, you can add short phrases, but don't overload yourself. I also recommend learning both ways. Anki lets you add the back and the front as separate cards, which I find really helpful. Just make sure you label them clearly. For example, mark one side with Ukrainian, so you don't confuse words that look the same in both languages. Second, use sentences sparingly. It's tempting to add long sentences to learn grammar, but that often slows you down. Learn the building blocks first, then use sentences later to reinforce context. Third thing is that you have to be consistent. Small daily habit beats huge irregular bursts. 10 new cards a day is plenty, and if even that feels heavy, lower it. Like I said, I'm doing 4. Your deck should feel manageable, not like a second job. In order for Anki to be effective, it needs to be used frequently. There's a reason Anki gives you a specific review intervals. The science says that's when you'll benefit most from revisiting the word. If you're not using Anki regularly, you miss those windows and the system stops working. Number 4 is make it personal. You can find pre-made decks, I like them, but add words and phrases you'll actually use in your life. So if you love cooking, add cooking vocabulary. I don't think there are a whole lot of decks made for that, so do that yourself. If you're chatting online, add the phrases you'd want to say. Personal relevance makes Anki stick. Now, here's the most important thing. Anki should never be your entire system. It's a memory tool, not a complete method. You need input and output around it. Input like reading, listening, watching shows, and output like speaking, journaling, and texting. Anki ties it all together by helping you remember what comes up in those activities. Think of it as the glue that holds everything else in place. If you're making cards from books you're reading or shows you're watching, you'll notice progress in both directions. You understand more and you remember more. So, what are the pros and cons? The pros: it's free, customizable, and backed by decades of memory research. If you're consistent, it's unbelievably effective. The cons: the interface feels outdated and overwhelming. It can turn into a grind if you overload yourself. And it's easy to quit if you don't tie it into a bigger routine. I've tried enough study methods to know what works for me, but part of why I'm giving Anki another chance is because I want to help other learners find what works for them. If small tweaks can make it click, then it's worth it. So here's the takeaway. Anki is powerful if you use it right. Keep cards simple, stay consistent, make it personal, and don't let it become your entire system. Do that and it transforms vocabulary from something slippery into something that actually sticks. My final verdict is that Anki isn't magic, it's a tool. When I overloaded it, it became a chore and I quit, but using it this way, smaller steps, meaningful decks, consistent reviews, has actually changed my perspective. For me, Anki has gone from something I avoided to something I can finally recommend. If you want a way to make Anki fit into a complete routine, then that's where the Fluent Habits workbook comes in. It gives you 30 days of small, simple tasks that build consistency across all areas of language learning, not just memorization. You can grab it for free in the description, and once memory is handled with Anki, the next step is knowing what to read to find the new words that you're adding into Anki, of course. And I made a video showing exactly which books I would suggest for you to start with, and you can watch it right here.